Our movie starts with Camellia, whom we see kidnapped in a strange place. Her captor has her tied up in a room and keeps beating and torturing her, without any apparent reason. After a long while, we see two girls, and we learn that they are traveling by bike and have come to Argentina as tourists. One of them is named Ellie, and her friend is Stephanie. When they reach the city in Argentina, they start looking for a place to stay, but all the hotels are very expensive. Eventually, they find a hotel with a more affordable rate and decide to stay there. At night, they meet Rose, the hotel owner, who starts chatting with them and asks why they came to the city. Stephanie tells her that they had come with a tour group for a trip to Argentina but split off to visit other cities. Later, Stephanie asks Rose about the train schedule. When Rose asks why she wants to know, Stephanie explains that she wants to reunite with the group she originally came with. Rose tells her that there's only one car going to that city at 7 a.m., and if she misses it, she won't be able to join her group the next day. Afterward, Ellie and Stephanie head to their room to sleep. Stephanie tells her friend that she's going to bed early so she can catch up with her tour group. But Ellie wants to stay up late and asks her to come down to a bar she saw on the way to the hotel. Stephanie initially refuses because she wants to sleep, but after a lot of convincing, she agrees, and they head to the bar together. When they enter, a guy orders them a large bottle to introduce himself. Ellie keeps drinking until she gets tipsy, then gets up to dance and is having a great time. Meanwhile, we see a guy named Michael, who we learn is Camelia's boyfriend, and he's looking for her. She was in this bar before she disappeared, so he goes up to the bar owner and asks about her, certain that she was kidnapped here. But the bar owner gets into an argument with him and kicks him out. Ellie then returns to her table, and we see the same guy who bought her a beer approaching her to sit with her. He introduces himself as Jose and asks if they can get to know each other better. Ellie agrees, and they spend the evening together. When Stephanie sees them, she decides to go back to the room to sleep. When Stephanie enters the hotel, she hears Rose, the hotel owner, arguing with her husband. She hears them repeating her and Ellie's names, but she doesn't understand what they're saying since they're speaking Spanish. Still, she gets the feeling that the argument is about them, but she doesn't dwell on it, and heads to her room to sleep. Later, Stephanie is awakened by a loud noise outside, so she goes out to see what's happening and finds Jose arguing with her friend Ellie and trying to hit her. Stephanie quickly steps in, takes her friend, and locks themselves in their room. However, Jose refuses to leave, becomes furious, starts cursing at them, and tries to break down the door. At that moment, a man named Michael steps out of the room across from them and starts fighting with Jose, hitting him repeatedly for assaulting the girls. Just then, Rose's husband, the hotel owner, arrives and sees what's going on. He stops the fight and orders Jose to leave the hotel immediately, threatening to call the police if he doesn't. Jose gets scared and leaves the place. The next day, we see Stephanie and Ellie waking up late, with only half an hour left before the bus departs. They hurry to catch it, but it leaves before they can reach it. Afterwards, Stephanie gets into an argument with her friend Ellie, blaming her for the delay because she hadn't wanted to stay up late. Ellie tries to calm her down, saying there must be another bus. They head back to the hotel, and Ellie calls the bus station, learning that there's another bus leaving just before dawn. Afterwards, Ellie and Stephanie agree to spend the day at a popular lake in the city called Lake of Miracles. As they head out, Rose finds out they're going to the lake and warns them, saying no one goes there because it's an abandoned area. But Ellie and Stephanie are determined to go. Rose suggests they visit the waterfalls or caves instead, but they ignore her advice, get ready, grab their bikes, and head to the lake. When they arrive, they notice the place is indeed deserted, and there's no one else around. But it's beautiful, and Ellie is thrilled, spending a lot of time on the lake's shore. Later, Stephanie asks Ellie to pack up so they can go back to the hotel and get ready for their trip. But Ellie refuses, saying she isn't leaving. Stephanie gets frustrated, tells her she's heading back to the hotel, and leaves. While returning on her bike, Stephanie notices a strange man around, feeling as though he's watching them, but she brushes it off and keeps going. Along the way, She realizes she probably shouldn't have left her friend alone in such an isolated place and wants to call her. However, she's still upset. Eventually, Stephanie takes out her phone and tries to call Ellie, but Ellie doesn't answer. Meanwhile, Ellie is sitting alone by the lake when she senses something unusual around her. Suddenly, a strange man attacks her and tries to kidnap her. Ellie resists but can't overpower him. After a long time passes, Stephanie grows worried about Ellie, fearing something might have happened to her, so she goes back to look for her. On the way, she encounters Michael, the guy who lives in the room across from theirs, and he asks where she's going. Stephanie explains that her friend Ellie was at the lake earlier, that she left her there, and now Ellie isn't answering her calls. She says she's going to search for her, so Michael offers to come along, and she agrees. They search everywhere for her. When they reach the place where Ellie was, Stephanie keeps calling her phone until they hear it ringing. Following the sound, they find Ellie's phone lying in the grass, and Michael notices blood on the ground. He tells Stephanie to call the police, and says that Ellie must have been kidnapped. Stephanie immediately contacts the police. After a while, Officer Cav arrives and asks what happened. Stephanie tells him that her friend was there and suddenly disappeared, and that they found her phone on the ground with blood stains nearby. Cav starts examining the area and assures Stephanie and Michael that everything seems perfectly normal, and that she probably wasn't kidnapped. He tells them her phone might have just fallen and reassures them that she'll likely show up within a day. Frustrated, Michael reminds him, "You told me the same thing the day Camellia disappeared." We then learn that Michael was searching for Camellia at the bar when Ellie encountered Jose. The officer replies coldly to Michael, saying his girlfriend betrayed him and left him. Stephanie then realizes that Michael is a dangerous person and that everyone who gets close to him ends up missing. Officer Cav then takes Stephanie to the police station to close Ellie's missing person report. When she arrives at the station, she sees a large stack of missing person reports, all involving young women, and all of them are marked as closed cases. When Officer Cav returns, Stephanie questions him about these missing girls and points out that many have gone missing in a short period. She insists that someone must be behind these incidents. Cav, however, remains unfazed, saying there's no criminal reason to make him concerned about these disappearances. He adds that Michael is highly dangerous and suspects he was responsible for Camelia's disappearance. He closes the report and instructs her to let him know if Ellie reappears. Stephanie feels that Cav is deliberately ignoring what's happening, so she decides to search for her friend on her own. She goes all over town, knocking on doors and asking about her friend, but no one is willing to help. While searching, she spots Jose and quickly approaches him to ask about Ellie, but he runs off, raising her suspicions further. She chases him into the woods, but he disappears. Stephanie heads back to the hotel only to find her bike damaged, and she starts to feel that something truly strange is going on, as if someone is watching her. Rushing back to the hotel, Stephanie finds Michael's room door open, so she goes in to talk to him, but he's not there. She searches his room, hoping to find any clue about her friend's whereabouts. She opens his bag and finds Ellie's bracelet inside, confirming her fears that Michael is responsible for her disappearance. She heads quickly to Officer Cav and tells him she found her friend's bracelet in Michael's bag while searching his room. Cav responds with the same indifference and tells her he'll look into it, then asks her to leave. Returning to the hotel, Stephanie is met by Rose, the hotel owner, who asks her why she's upset. Stephanie shares her worries about her friend and tells her everything that's happened. Rose comforts her, saying Cav will be able to find her, then goes to make her something to drink. Just then, Stephanie spots Jose on a motorcycle and quickly grabs Rose's car keys, chasing after him to confront him. He heads into an abandoned place and suddenly vanishes. She gets out of the car to look for him in the eerie, deserted area where he disappeared. Suddenly, she sees Michael in front of her. She gets really scared and doesn't know how to escape, but Michael tries to calm her down and tells her that he won't hurt her. Once she calms down, Stephanie tells Michael that he's the one who kidnapped her friend, but he's confused by her words. She says that she opened his room and found her friend's bracelet in his bag. She tells him that Officer Caff knows what happened and is planning to arrest him. When Michael sees the bracelet, he pulls out a picture from his pocket, showing it to Stephanie, and points to the bracelet his girlfriend Camila was wearing. It looks exactly like the bracelet that Ellie had. Stephanie feels relieved, feels embarrassed, and doesn't know what to say. When she asks about what happened with his girlfriend Camila, Michael tells her that he's not from this town and that he came to Argentina with his girlfriend Camila for a vacation. One day, Camila decided to go to the Lake of Wishes, after hearing from the locals that it was a magical place. He tells her that at that time, he wasn't free to go with her, so he let her go alone. However, she was late, and when he went to the lake to search for her, he found that she had disappeared and all he found was her bracelet. That's why he kept it. They realize that this happened 3 months ago, and Stephanie then realizes that this is exactly what happened to her friend Ellie. Michael tells her that the villagers know what's been happening to tourists and the reason for their disappearances, especially in that area, but they don't want to talk about it. They decide to team up and work together to find Ellie and Camila. Next, we go to Jose, who's sitting in an abandoned house. We see Ellie tied up and lying next to him on the ground, and we learn that he's the one who kidnapped her. At that moment, Ellie keeps cursing Jose and asking him to untie her, but he gets really angry and starts beating her until he gets a call from his friend, so he leaves her and goes to meet him. Then we cut to Calvin standing with Michael, and Calvin asks him what brought him to the abandoned place. Michael tells him that it seemed like a nice spot, so he stayed there. But Calvin insists that he leave the place, and warns him not to appear in any part of the city again before walking away. Stephanie continues searching for Ellie until she notices the motorcycle that Jose was riding. She rushes to the location where Ellie is. When she enters the place, she sees Ellie lying on the ground, showing signs of torture, and Jose is standing next to her on the phone. Stephanie realizes that there's a generator running in the place, so she pulls the plug, forcing Jose to go and turn it back on. While he does that, Stephanie quickly unties Ellie and helps her escape. However, Jose spots them and chases after them. They keep running until Stephanie picks up a piece of wood from the ground and starts hitting him with it until he loses consciousness. Then Ellie and Stephanie get into the car, but Jose attacks them, smashing the car's windows. Ellie finds a pesticide in the car and sprays it in Jose's face, and they manage to escape until Officer Caff arrives with Michael. He faces off with Jose, who holds Ellie hostage and hits her. He throws her to the ground, smashing her against a large rock, and she dies. Stephanie is shocked by what's happening. Michael charges at Jose and starts beating him until Caff pulls out his gun and arrests Jose. He orders Stephanie to get into his car. When she gets in the car, she sees her friend's passport, and then she realizes that Caff is the one who kidnapped Ellie. She starts screaming, and Michael figures out that Caff is the kidnapper. The car door is locked, and Stephanie can't get out. Michael grabs the gun and forces Caff and Jose to surrender, demanding that he lets Stephanie out. But Caff says that he will take Stephanie and help him find his girlfriend Camila. He threatens to kill her if Michael refuses. Michael agrees and hands over the gun, but Caff drugs Michael and shoots him, killing him. Then Jose takes Stephanie to the abandoned house, where he reveals that he kidnaps girls and sells them to brothels. He plans to sell her tonight. Stephanie tries to escape, but Caff grabs her and takes her to the man who's going to buy her. Stephanie realizes that the buyer is the husband of Rose, the hotel owner. The man reveals that he works with Jose and Caff and that he knows the names of the foreigners staying at the hotel so that Jose and Caff can kidnap them and sell them. Stephanie gets scared and punches Officer Caff, trying to escape quickly. She runs toward the river, but Caff grabs his gun and chases after her. She reaches a small house where only one person lives. She begs the homeowner for help, but Caff arrives, kills the homeowner, and enters the house after Stephanie. When he finds her, he tries to kill her, but she grabs a knife from the kitchen and stabs Caff in the leg, making him fall to the ground. Stephanie grabs his rifle, shoots him, and quickly runs out of the house. She walks down the road, unable to believe that her friend is dead, that Michael was killed, and that the person responsible for it all is the officer who was supposed to protect them. She finally sees a car coming towards her. She's terrified, but then she sees that it's an army vehicle, and a female officer gets out. She reassures Stephanie that she's safe and will return to her home as soon as possible. And that's where the movie ends. If you liked it, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.